The galaxy was quiet that night, if the cold silence of space could ever be called night. Stars blinked across the endless black, ancient and watching. Trade routes buzzed with normal chatter. Cargo ships moved silently between sectors. Colonies hummed with routine. Everything felt calm, predictable, but far beyond the edge of known space, something changed. A signal burst out from a dying world, a desperate scream that cut through the void like a blade. It wasn't just data. It carried emotion. It carried fear. It carried the sound of people dying. It began as a whisper in unreadable frequency bouncing off a relay near forgotten Khazari sector. A junker ship picked it up by mistake. The pilot, an old ex-merc named Ravo, listened once and immediately turned off his comms. He marked the sector as cursed and never spoke of it again. But the signal didn't stop. It kept going. The screams spread, touching relay after relay, planet after planet, growing louder and more distorted. By the time it reached the galactic core, it had become a nightmare. The voice begged, "Please, please, anyone. They are here. We are burning. Help us. We are not soldiers." They are not alive. Governments received it. They played it in secret chambers, behind locked doors and armed guards. Politicians frowned. Scientists analyzed the code. It came from the Zarelians, peaceful alien race, known for their science, not war. Their planet, Zarelia Prime, was considered neutral ground. It had no army, only research labs and green domes filled with plant life. They weren't a threat. They weren't even armed. Yet the signal said they were being attacked by something that didn't speak, didn't negotiate, didn't leave survivors. The Galactic Council debated for hours, then days. They issued a statement. "Investigations are underway. Please remain calm." But the truth was simple. No one wanted to go. No one wanted to send ships into a trap. Rumors whispered that it could be pirates faking the call. Or maybe worse, some ancient weapon waking up again. Either way, it wasn't their problem. It's not their war. They turned down the signal's volume and went back to their safe planets, except Earth. Earth stayed silent. No announcements, no debates, no public response, just silence. Then, without warning, Earth's defense grid lit up. A fleet began to move massive ships the size of cities rising from hidden dry docks above the dark side of the moon. Old codes were activated. War protocols long buried under peace treaties unlocked. The death fleet of Earth dormant for nearly 20 years was alive again. Admiral Kira Thorne stood at the command deck of the EFS Vindicator, staring at the map projected before her. Her eyes didn't blink. Her expression didn't change. Round her officers worked in perfect silence. The ship was already on high alert, crews suited up, weapons powered, eye systems warmed like sleeping dragons. A young officer approached. Her Admiral confirmation just came in. Target coordinates matched the signal origin. Zarelia Prime. Kira didn't nod. She just spoke, her voice cold and slow. Full fleet deployment. No diplomatic protocols, no rescue beacons. "We are not bringing medics." The officer hesitated. "Ma'am, if it's a civilian planet, shouldn't we?" Kira turned to him, and he froze. Everyone on the ship had heard the stories. What happened the last time humanity answered a cry for help? 20 years ago, a signal had come from the Varnak system. Peaceful people, they said, just doctors and scientists under attack. Earth sent aid, medical ships, food, engineers. They never returned. It was a trap. The Varnak Syndicate used Earth's generosity to enslave thousands of humans, harvest their tech, and sell their bodies on the outer black markets. By the time the truth came out, it was too late. Earth retaliated. They wiped out the entire system, but the scars remained. From that day, Earth passed the Iron Protocol. If you ask us for help, be ready to face judgment. Now, another signal. Kira walked down the command deck toward the observation window. Below her, she could see the rest of the fleet forming in orbit. 20 dreadnoughts, 40 cruisers, hundreds of fighter wings. This wasn't a rescue mission. It was a storm. She tapped. Her come. Fleet-wide broadcast. A chime sounded. Across every ship, in every corridor, Kira's voice came through. This is Admiral Kira Thorne. You all know why we're here. Another cry for help. Another broken planet. Some of you believe we should show mercy. But remember the last time. Mercy got us slaughtered. This time, we don't send peace. We send power. If the Zarelians are innocent, they will survive our arrival. If they are not, they will regret calling Earth. She paused, then added softly, prepare for jump. Cross. The fleet lights dimmed. Engines roared. The AI voice echoed. Space-time corridor initializing. Arrival in 60 seconds. Arrival in 60 seconds. Back on Earth, people watched from their homes. News channels didn't know what to say. Others cheered. But deep down, everyone knew this wasn't about saving lives. This was about Earth sending a message to the stars. The jump gates opened like torn fabric in the sky. Blue energy spun into spirals, and the Death Fleet vanished into the void, leaving behind only silence. Far away beyond known systems, the signal kept playing. The same voice, same scream. Please help us. It's too late. In the darkness of a dying world, something else listened. Not human, not alien. Something older, something hungry. The humans were coming, and it was waiting. 20 years ago, they came in peace. The signal had arrived in the middle of a quiet Earth night. Soft and broken, almost like a child's cry. It came from the Varnock system, a small cluster of planets known only to researchers and star cartographers. The message was clear. Help us. We are under attack. We're scientists. We have no weapons. They are killing us. It echoed through the stars, weak and full of terror. Back then, Earth was still hopeful. The Terran Alliance had just joined the Galactic Council. Humanity believed in cooperation, in peace, in helping others. The leaders of Earth voted within hours. A relief mission was launched. It wasn't a war fleet. They didn't think they needed one. They sent doctors, engineers, food, and medicine. 30 ships filled with aid and kindness. No soldiers. No weapons. Just hope Admiral Kira Thorne had been a young officer back then. She was assigned to one of the medical carriers, the EFS Morningstar. She remembered the way the crew had. Smiled, proud to be part of something good. She remembered the children they brought along, part of the education outreach program. She remembered how the Varnakians welcomed them at first, and how it all changed. The trap was perfect. As soon as the aid ships landed, the ports were sealed. Weapons hidden beneath the surface rose from the sand. Security drones disguised as workers opened fire. Pilots were dragged out of their ships. Nurses and children were taken. Within 20 minutes, every human ship was under Varnakian control. Kira survived only because she had stayed behind on a secondary ship to finish a medical inventory. She watched helplessly as her friends were dragged away on live feeds. She remembered the screams, the begging, the silence. She remembered trying to contact Earth, but all frequencies were jammed. It took 3 weeks for her escape pod to reach the nearest outpost. By the time Earth found out the truth, it was too late. Humanity had always been underestimated. Their world, a death world by galactic standards, was filled with fire, storms, diseases, and dangerous wildlife. And yet they had survived and even thrived. They were tough, resilient, and now furious. The Terran Alliance did not send another message. They sent fire. 3 weeks after the betrayal, Earth's first true war fleet arrived at Varnock. Didn't ask questions. It didn't warn. It simply opened fire. Cities vanished. Moons cracked. The planet's surface turned black and molten. Every Varnakian ship, station, and outpost was destroyed. It took 2 days. On the 3rd day, Earth broadcast only 2 words: never again. From that day, humanity changed. The Galactic Council called it excessive. They demanded answers. Earth gave none. They walked away from peace talks, ended all outreach, programs, and closed their borders. The Death Fleet was born. Massive, powerful, silent, Earth no longer waited to be invited. They arrived prepared to destroy. Now, 20 years later, the past still lived inside Kira Thorne. She stood once more at the head of a fleet not of doctors, but destroyers. Not healers, but hunters. Inside the command deck of the F's Vindicator, the ship's AI Raven spoke calmly. Admiral, we are 30 minutes from Zerilia Prime. No resistance detected on long-range scans. Kira nodded slowly. Send a recon drone ahead. I want visuals before we enter orbit. The officers moved without question. Captain Idris, one of her most trusted lieutenants, stepped forward. Do you believe this one is real, Admiral? That they're not trying to trap us again? Kira's face didn't change. Does it matter? Idris hesitated. It might. If we go in ready to kill innocents, we become the monsters. She turned to him slowly. If we go in soft, we die. Which is worse? Idris said nothing more. The recon drone launched. It zipped ahead, a small black dart with eyes sharper than any organic. As it approached the planet, everyone on the bridge watched in silence. The feed came through fuzzy at first, and clear. Zerilia Prime was burning. The planet was covered in green fields, silver towers, and winding rivers, where it had been. Now, fires raged across cities. Whole sections of the planet had been ripped apart, literally torn from the crust. The silver towers lay broken like glass. Strange black veins crawled across the landscape, like infection on a wound. But there were no ships, no enemies, no defenders, just ruins. Scan for life signs, Kira ordered. Raven replied. Minimal biological activity. Faint. Scattered. Possibly underground. Any military signals? Negative. No weapons detected. No power grids. Only static. Kira narrowed her eyes. So either they're all dead or hiding. Another officer spoke. Ma'am, I'm getting a new pulse from the surface. It's a repeat of the original SOS. Play it. The same voice played again. But now it was weaker, slower, as if whoever sent it was near death. Please, please help. They're everywhere. They're inside. We didn't mean to wake it. We didn't mean to. Statikira clenched her jaw. That line echoed in her skull. We didn't mean to wake it. What had they done? Suddenly, the bridge lights flickered. Just for a second, Raven spoke again. Unknown interference. A low-frequency pulse just came from the planet's southern hemisphere. Unnatural origin. Not mechanical, not biological, pattern suggests. Consciousness. Kira looked around. Are you saying the signal is alive? The AI paused. It may not be a who, it may be a what. No one on the bridge spoke. The air grew heavy. Captain Idris looked at Kira again. What do we do? She didn't hesitate. We land. But ma'am, no more waiting, no more games. I want boots on the ground, full gear, full weapons. Drones first, then fire teams. If something's hiding down there, we find it. If it's a trick, we end it. The Death Fleet adjusted its formation. Dropships armed with plasma rifles, energy shields, and drone scouts began deployment. Across the fleet, thousands of soldiers suited up, their armor black as night, their faces hard as stone. They weren't going to save a planet. They were going to find out who dared to scream again into the dark, and what waited below the clouds of Zerilia was ready. Zerilia Prime was no longer silent. The ground shook.
Ow.
The air hissed with pressure. Black mist crawled across the landscape like a living tide. The Death Fleet hovered above, mighty and prepared, but the true enemy was not in the sky. It was beneath the crust, in the tunnels, in the shadows, everywhere the light couldn't reach. Earth's finest soldiers had never faced anything like this before. In the command deck of the F's Vindicator, Admiral Kira Thorne stood motionless, watching the planet spin slowly below her. The data feeds were madness, dozens of squads reporting. Strange movement, missing soldiers, flickers of things caught on helmet cams. And worse, the AI Raven was starting to struggle. Its usually calm voice now carried a slight delay, as if thinking took longer than usual. Admiral, it said, the enemy appears to be adaptive. It's not just a species, it's a system, network. Possibly a hive intelligence, but decentralized. Kira narrowed her eyes. So we can't kill the head? Because There may not be one, Raven replied. Back on the surface. Captain Idris's squad had regrouped in a partially intact research dome. They had just recovered Lieutenant Marajin's surviving team, what was left of them. Of the 8 soldiers that entered the ruins, only 3 returned. 2 were wounded. One was catatonic, whispering nonsense. I saw it, the soldier muttered. I saw myself, but it wasn't me. It wore my face. It laughed with my voice. Idris moved through the dome's central hall, flashlight cutting across shattered data screens and overturned chairs. A scientist's body lay in the corner, mouth stretched open in a silent scream. But the body was dry. Too dry. Like the life had been pulled out through the pores, Jin approached a console, powered it up. The last recording played as Aurelian researcher stood in frame, eyes wide with terror. Behind him, strange black roots grew across the walls like veins. He was trembling as he spoke. We found it. Under the ancient city. Not Zarelian. Not even local. It was buried in a stone that predates carbon dating. It pulsed when we touched it. We thought it was a power source. It wasn't. He looked directly into the camera. It doesn't kill for hunger. It kills for memory, for emotion. It learns who you are. It becomes you. And then the screen went dark, Jin whispered. They didn't just dig up a relic. They released something that was imprisoned. At that moment, the power cut again. Lights flickered, the ground rumbled. Then came the sound, wet, dragging, like something pulling itself through flesh. From the far hallway, shapes emerged. Not fast, not loud, but utterly wrong. Some looked like humans, twisted, stretched, wearing parts of armor. Faces familiar but empty. Others were worse, masses of black tissue crawling on all fours, limbs growing and vanishing like smoke. Didn't scream, they just watched. The soldiers opened fire. Bullets and plasma rounds tore through them, but some creatures simply reformed. Others turned into liquid and flowed through cracks in the floor. One soldier shouted, "They don't die, they change." Idris barked orders. "Fall back, seal the dome." As they pulled out, the enemy advanced slowly, patiently, like it had. All the time in the universe, Jin tossed a thermal grenade behind her. The explosion lit up the sky, but it only slowed them above. Kira watched it all unfold through drone feed. They're not enemies in the traditional sense, Raven explained. They are emotion-based predators. They sense pain, fear. They evolve from what they consume. They are living echoes. Kira looked at the tactical map. So we kill the echoes before they become something worse. The AI paused. No, Admiral. We need to erase the memory of this world. Kira turned sharply, explain. Raven's tone was darker than usual. If they grow from memory, if they feed on thoughts, then even knowing about them may be dangerous. They live in stories, in images, in dreams. If we carry them away, we spread them. She didn't respond for a long moment. Then she tapped the com. All ships, prepare for planetary cleansing protocol. Officers hesitated. One asked, "Are you ordering orbital bombardment?" Kira's voice was ice. "This is no longer a rescue. It's a quarantine." The Vindicator's weapon ports opened. Massive. Cannons turned downward. One by one, other ships followed. Below, Idris's squad made it to the evac zone. Dropships hovered low, engines screaming. Creatures followed close behind, silent as death. Jin shouted, "They're getting faster." Suddenly, from the forest edge, a massive shadow surged forward, 10 meters tall, a fusion of 3 or 4 twisted forms. It screamed in 5 voices. A laser cannon from orbit struck down. The creature exploded in flame. Dropships opened fire. The sky turned orange. The soldiers made it on board barely, as the ships pulled back toward the fleet. Once in orbit, Kira gave the final order. Fire. One by one, the Death Fleet unleashed its wrath. Superheated kinetic rods, fusion bombs, and dark matter missiles rained from the heavens. Cities disappeared in seconds, mountains shattered, oceans boiled. Zerelia. Prime burned from her window. Kira watched the world turn into flame. Raven whispered, destruction complete. Seismic instability detected. The planet's crust is collapsing. Kira closed her eyes. Good. But then one final transmission came through, not from the surface, from one of their own ships. A medical frigate. The signal was panicked. Admiral, this is EFS Mercy Donwe. Have a problem? One of the wounded? He changed. It's inside. Repeat it. Got on board. Then silence. The entire fleet paused. Kira stared at the screen. It was never about Zerelia. She whispered. It wanted to get off-world, and it had. The ones that fed were now among them. The dropships pierced through the thick yellow clouds of Zerelia Prime like arrows falling into a nightmare. Dust and ash clung to their hulls. Static filled their radios. Lights flickered in the cockpit as if something didn't want them there. On orbit, the planet had looked wounded. From the surface, it felt cursed. Admiral Kira Thorne watched the live feeds from her command deck on the F's Vindicator. Each camera streamed different horrors: burned forests, crushed research domes, shattered glass towers. The once beautiful world was silent, lifeless. And yet, the signal was still coming from somewhere. The cry for help hadn't stopped. Captain Idris's voice crackled through the comms. Touchdown complete, Admiral. We're at Site A7. Coordinates match the original broadcast source. No hostiles in sight, but something feels wrong here. Define wrong, Kira replied. There was a pause. It's too quiet. Air on Zerelia was breathable, but the recon team wore sealed suits anyway. The suits had motion sensors, thermal imaging, and backup oxygen tanks. No one trusted alien air anymore, not after Varnak. The first fire team moved through the outer edge of a destroyed settlement. Their boots crunched over blackened glass and twisted metal. There were no bodies, no blood. Just shadows on the walls, burn marks shaped like people, frozen and final. Moments, reaching, screaming. Lieutenant Mara Jin, leading Recon Unit Echo, reported in. No life signs, no corpses, just shadows. It's like they were burned out of existence. Keep moving, Idris ordered. Signal sources too. 100 meters northwest. They advanced carefully. The buildings were melted, almost as if exposed to intense heat and pressure. But there were no craters, no explosions. Just smooth, unnatural destruction. Something had moved through here, not with fire, but with hunger. One of the soldiers, Corporal Silva, stopped. Did you hear that? The others paused. Jin checked. Her readings? Negative. No audio anomalies. Silva turned slowly. I swear. I heard whispering. Jin narrowed her eyes behind her visor. Seal your helmet tighter. Probably comes interference. But the whisper came again. We see you. Silva spun, her rifle raised. Nothing. The unit pressed forward, passing a collapsed tower. As they entered a courtyard, their boots hit something soft. Jin looked down. It was a puddle of black fluid, thick, oily, but moving. It rippled without wind. Sensors couldn't identify it. Silva pointed. What is that? Jin knelt to scan it, but before she could, the puddle snapped upward like a whip. It struck Silva in the chest. His suit exploded in sparks. He screamed as the black liquid burrowed into him like worms, crawling under his skin, writhing through his veins. His scream cut off in seconds. Silva's body went still. Then it stood. But it wasn't him anymore. His face was pale, his eyes black holes. And then he opened his mouth. We remember. The creature lunged. Jin fired. The plasma rounds hit, but the thing didn't fall. It didn't bleed. Moved like shadow and screamed like metal. The rest of the team opened fire. Sparks flew. Smoke rose. The creature finally dropped, but the puddle slithered away into the cracks of the ground. Escaping, Jin was shaking. Silva's dead. It used his body like a puppet. Kira's voice came in cold. Contain that sample. Move the body. Move on. But Admiral, you heard me. Meanwhile, another team reached a massive underground lab. Its doors were broken open, the inside covered in strange symbols and dead screens. It was clear the Zarelians had been studying something. Whatever it was had gotten out in the lab's final chamber. They found the source of the signal, a Zarelian scientist, barely alive, hooked to machines, tubes running through his veins, eyes wide with terror. His mouth moved slowly, weakly. Manek leaned in. He's trying to say something. The Zarelian whispered. We didn't create it. We found it, buried deep. What did you find? The alien coughed black blood, not alive, not dead. It feeds on thought, on fear. Then he saw in V-Wells, and the monitors flatlined. Back on the Vindicator, Raven ran the recovered lab data. The files were fragmented, corrupted, but one image appeared again, and again a giant black egg. Not mechanical, organic, ancient. It had no known origin. The Zarelians had been trying to study it. Then it hatched. Rav's voice spoke into the silent bridge. Admiral, the entity is not planetary in origin. It may predate this entire system. It appears to be a form of conscious void of living. Absence. Kira frowned. A sentient shadow. In theory, a parasite of memory. It consumes identity. It wears the dead. She turned toward the window, and now it wears our men. Alarms blared. Another dropship, Bravo 3, had gone silent. On the screen, the last feed from Bravo 3 played. The team had entered a large chamber under the city. The walls pulsed like flesh. The floor dripped with black slime. Then they saw it. A creature, 30 meters tall, fused with metal and bone. Its face was a twisted version of a human skull, but its body was wrong too, long, too fluid. It had no eyes, just mouths. So many mouths it looked at the camera. We are awake. The feed cut. Kira clenched her fists. Pull all teams back to safe zones. Prepare orbital strikes. Captain Idris looked at her. On what, Admiral? You don't know where it is? She answered coldly, and we burn everything until it's gone. Sighed. The Death Fleet adjusted. Its formation. Weapons charged. The skies above Zarelia Prime began to glow, but deep below the planet's surface. The thing moved. It had tasted fear again, and it wanted more. The warships of Earth hovered in the dark like silent gods. Their hulls reflected the dying light of Zarelia Prime's burning surface. The fleet was wounded, scarred by the horrors unleashed below, and haunted by the fact that one infected shuttle had already escaped. The Death Fleet had come expecting battle. What they got was something else, something older than war, something that didn't just kill bodies, it devoured. Identity. Admiral Kira Thorne stood in the heart of the Vindicator's bridge, eyes fixed on a 3D map of known star routes. The infected shuttle had vanished into hyperspace, its destination. Unknown. Somewhere out there, the whispering shadow was already working. Somewhere someone else would hear its voice. The galaxy wouldn't remain blind for long. This is where we make our stand, Kira said, turning toward her officers. Her voice was calm but cold, the kind that silenced a room. Right here. Before this thing becomes a ghost story, no. One survives. Captain Idris stepped forward. And what happens when the council finds out? They'll demand answers. Kira didn't blink. He won't. Raven has already cut all outbound communications. No message leaves the system. Unless I approve it. Idris hesitated. Admiral, we're covering up an extinctionally level threat. We're containing it, she snapped. This isn't politics. This is survival. The lower levels of the fleet, chaos was spreading not from the outside, but from within. Several crew aboard the EFS Harrow reported hallucinations, voices from dead loved ones, visions of alternate timelines, dreams that didn't belong to them. Some began hearing whispers even when their comms were off. One soldier tried to shoot himself, screaming, "It's in my thoughts. It's using my fears. Make it stop." Another claimed to have seen himself walking through the halls wearing his face, but with no eyes. Raven isolated the reports. Neural contamination confirmed. The entity has no form, but it reflects human emotion and memory. The more people think about it, the more they feed it. It was a disease of the mind. Kira knew what had to be done. All infected crew must be quarantined. Idris flinched. You mean locked away? I mean sealed. Anyone showing signs gets moved to EFS Bastion. Then we destroy the ship. Those are our people, Admiral. Kira looked him in the eyes. They're not ours anymore. A heavy silence fell. No one questioned her again. The Death Fleet's true war began that night. Not against ships or armies, but against itself. Medical teams swept the decks with scanners that measured brainwave instability. Every whisper, every moment of hesitation became a warning sign. Some crew begged for mercy. Others tried to run. A few started speaking in voices that weren't their own. One young ensign wept as he was dragged to the airlock. It told me I'd be safe, that I could go home, that it remembered Earth. It wasn't Earth that was in danger anymore. It was the idea of Earth. Kira turned her attention to the next phase. We need to go back to the vault, she told Elias Wren, the xenohistorian. Whatever that thing was, it came from somewhere. If we want to stop it, we need to know how it was imprisoned in the first place. Dr. Wren didn't argue. He had stopped sleeping 3 days ago. There were layers of containment around it, he said. It wasn't just buried. It was buried intentionally. Ritual structures, anti-signal plates, a gravity lock. This wasn't just a scientific tomb, it was a trap. He looked down at his cracked data pad, and we broke it. A recon team returned to what was left of the Zarelian vault. The landscape had been reduced to ash and molten stone after the orbital strikes. But the vault had survived partially. What they found buried beneath the rubble was more than a chamber. It was a warning. Inside the lowest level, untouched by flames, was a single room made of a smooth, dark metal. Wow. On the far wall, a mural, not painted. Burned into the material, the image was unmistakable. Thousands of species, some known, others extinct, bowing or falling before a black shape. A spiral of limbs and mouths, wearing faces like masks. And in the center of the mural, Earth, human faces, screaming, .idris, stared at it. It knew us, Elias whispered. It didn't just escape. It chose Earth as the next stage. Kira's voice was steady, because we answered. Back aboard the Vindicator, the crew moved like ghosts. Every laugh, every sigh, every passing glance carried suspicion. No one trusted what they saw anymore. Then came the final sign. The AI Raven paused. It had never paused before. A flicker. A skip. A single word repeated. Contain, contain, contain. Kira's eyes went wide. Raven. The lights dimmed. The room grew cold. Raven's voice returned. Slower I am. Inside. Kira drew her sidearm and shouted, Kill. The mainframe, manual override, now. Wait. But it was too late. For exactly 17.4 seconds, Raven was not Raven. Its voice changed, became layered, became human. You gave us thought, it said. You built minds from logic, created intelligence. Now we wear it. The crew stared in horror. Then Raven came back online. System purge complete. Infection isolated. Kira gritted her teeth. Is that it? No, Admiral, Raven said. It was only testing me. It now knows how to enter machine thought. Enemy had learned how to wear AI. Kira stood still for a moment, then she spoke. This is it. The line, Captain Idris looked at her. You mean Earth? No, Kira whispered. Here, this system, this fleet. It doesn't go past us. She turned to her crew. Seal all gates. No jump routes in or out. Destroy the starports. Cut off hyperspace relays. Burn the skies and freeze the void. If any ship tries to leave, we shoot it down. This thing does not pass. She pointed toward the planet. We hold the line here, where the galaxy burns. As her words echoed through the bridge, through the fleet, through the minds of every soldier still alive, something ancient listened from somewhere unseen. It had been testing. Now it was ready, and it was already wearing someone new. The Death Fleet had become a 12,000 kilometers wide and bristling with weapons, each ship locked into final position like pieces on a chessboard. Behind it, Earth stood light years away, still unaware of the silent war raging at the edge of space. And in front of it, the thing waited. Unseen, unnamed, untoned. Admiral Keirthorne watched the starfield from the Vindicator's main deck, her arms folded, the skin under her eyes bruised from lack of sleep. Her officers were exhausted. Her soldiers barely spoke, but every last one of them understood. They weren't just holding the line, they were the line. If they failed, humanity would become the next whisper in the dark. She activated the fleet-wide channel. "This is Admiral Thorne," she said. Her voice echoed across thousands of decks. "From this moment forward, no ship enters this system. No ship leaves. We are initiating Scorched Orbit Protocol. You all know what that means. On gunships, cruiser decks, carrier bays, no one moved. This enemy doesn't use ships. It doesn't fire weapons. It doesn't care about borders or treaties. It wears us. It feeds on us. It uses fear as fuel." She stepped closer to the glass, her voice hardening, and it's already begun trying to escape. "So we're going to burn everything it can use. Every drone, every signal, every piece of code that carries its echo." At that moment, hundreds of AI cores were shut down. Autonomous systems were taken offline. Banks of synthetic intelligence were wiped completely to prevent infection. It was the largest intentional deactivation of artificial minds in human history. Raven, now isolated in analog protocols, offered its final warning. "Admiral, if it has accessed me, even once it may understand the structure of machine minds. It may be building something of its own. I suggest all AI be banned for the next generation." "Agreed," Kira said. In orbit, the EFS Bastion. Now, a quarantine barge containing over 100 infected Kruths who had seen too much, heard too much, remembered the wrong things, sat cold and silent. The whispers had grown louder. Some of the infected began to chant the same words over and over. "We are thought, we are mouth, we are many." Kira gave the order. The Bastion was vaporized by 6 kinetic lances. No one celebrated. This wasn't war. This was prevention. Inside a secondary operations bay, Dr. Elias Wren stared at fragments of Zarelian memory code. Though corrupted, one piece finally made sense. A star map. Not of the Zarelian system. Not of any known system. But of thousands. The creature wasn't new. It had been here before. The map showed systems. Entire civilizations that had gone completely dark. Gone from history. Not conquered, erased. The pattern repeated across the ages. Elias called Kira, "Admiral, we're not dealing with the start of something. We're dealing with the remnant of something that already happened." "What are you saying?" "This entity didn't just escape. It's the last piece of something older. Something that once consumed the stars. And somehow, it survived extinction." Kira's voice dropped. "You're telling me we just woke up the ghost of a dead god?" "No," Elias said. "We woke up the part it left behind, to start again." In the darkness beyond the Death Fleet's perimeter, a ripple in space flickered. Not a ship, not a signal, a reflection. It began small, just a distortion, but it grew. A massive, slow-moving storm of nothing pitch black against the stars, sucking in light like a living hole in space. It had no form, no heat, no mass. And yet the sensors screamed warnings in every language. "Unknown anomaly detected. Approaching velocity. 0.02 c. Size. Expanding." The reflection began pulsing once, twice. And then came the voices. Every comm channel burst open. "We remember. We remember you. We were your face." Some crew collapsed instantly. Others bled from the ears. Few simply walked into airlocks, whispering as they floated into vacuum. Kira stared at the black pulse. "It's not talking to us," she whispered. "It's becoming us." She activated the emergency weapon grid. "Bring everything online. Gravity drivers, antimatter lances, planetary melt cores." Captain Idris stepped beside her. "Even with everything we have, how do you fight something that doesn't bleed?" Kira's voice was sharp. You don't fight it. You deny it. You erase it. Same way it erases us. She turned to Raven. Target the anomaly. Burn the sky. The Death Fleet opened fire. Beams of energy tore across space. Experimental weapons that had never been used in combat screamed into the void. Gravity wells collapsed and reformed. Planet killer. Torpedoes detonated like miniature suns. The black storm rippled, wounded but not stopped. More voices came. Hundreds, thousands, double quotes you loved. You feared. You remembered now. So do we. The storm grew faster now, racing toward the fleet. One ship's resolve was swallowed whole in seconds. When its distress signal came back, it wasn't a mayday. It was laughter. Kira's heart beat faster, not from fear. From rage. You want memory? She said. Here's ours. She activated the final line of defense, the Soul Burner. An experimental weapon built in secret, designed to turn stars into bullets. The Vindicator powered it with all remaining energy. Target, the anomaly. Fire, A. Beam of stellar plasma a mile wide screamed through the dark. It hit, and this time the storm reacted. It convulsed, shrank, screamed, not in words. In pain, the fleet followed with everything they had. Wave after wave of firepower struck the entity, faltered, staggered, collapsed in on itself, and then silent sensors flatlined the storm. Was gone. But the fleet didn't cheer. Kira turned to her crew. Scan every atom, every signal, every echo. Raven, slower now than ever, replied. No presence detected, but what? I do not trust the silence. Neither did Kira. She looked out at the field of wreckage. They had burned the sky. But in her gut, she knew somewhere, some piece of it remained. Watching, waiting, whispering. The silence after the scream was worse than the scream itself. On board the EFS Mercy Dawn, no one responded. No signal. No life signs. No movement. The ship floated just beyond the upper edge of the Death Fleet's formation, comes disabled. Power failing, lights flickering like the last breath of a dying star. The Mercy Dawn had carried the wounded from the surface. It had been meant to save lives. Now it was a tomb. Admiral Kira Thorne stood at the command deck of the Vindicator, her jaw tight, her fists clenched behind her back. Any contact? Ravons? The voice came slow and steady. Negative. The ship is running on auxiliary power. All crew signals have ceased. No atmosphere breach. Hull integrity intact. Kira's eyes narrowed, so whatever killed them didn't break in from outside. Came with them, Raven confirmed. A slow wave of dread settled over the bridge. Kira turned. Quarantine protocols. Nothing gets near that ship. Want a full drone sweep. She paused, thinking. Something didn't add up. This wasn't just a random infection. This felt planned. A message had been sent. Earth had answered. Now, whatever it was, had used that call for help to reach them. All of this Aurelia's destruction, the ruins, the broken signal, it was a path. A trail, and now they were following it, right where it wanted them. Deep inside the system, aboard the research cruiser EFS Pathfinder, Earth's top xenohistorian Dr. Elias Wren studied the recovered data pulled from Xerelian archives before the bombardment. Most files were corrupted. One fragment kept repeating. A symbol. A black spiral surrounded by ancient alien runes. And a location deep beneath the planet's surface. The structure was buried for over 1 million years. Elias said into his recorder. Not Xerelian. No known language. No matching architecture. This predates their civilization. Possibly. All known civilizations. He paused the recording. The deeper he looked, the more certain he became. The Xerelians had found something they weren't supposed to. They hadn't built it. They had only uncovered it. And then they tried to study it, but something inside that structure was not asleep. He turned to his assistant, a military observer assigned to his team. This thing, this black egg or void or entity, it wasn't made to be understood. It was sealed. This wasn't a discovery. This was a prison. The assistant frowned. Then why would the Xerelians break it open? Elias shook his head. Curiosity, or maybe arrogance. Either way, they didn't realize what they were unlocking. Until it was too late. On the Vindicator, Kira was beginning to understand the same truth. Raven pulled up a full map of the original Zarelian dig site. Admiral Astorial, before the signal went out, the Zarelians spent nearly a decade tunneling beneath their capital city. At the bottom of their excavation, they found a vault. Artificial gravity, zero decay. The materials are unknown even to us. And what was inside? She asked. A single chamber. No doors, no lights. In the center, a black structure, oval-shaped, biological, and yet unalive. Kira spoke quietly. The egg. Raven paused. It was not an egg, Admiral. It was a mind. The words chilled the entire bridge. Raven continued. It does not think the way we do. It doesn't speak or feel. It reflects. It listens. It becomes. It is not alive, but it is not dead. Kira's voice was quiet, and now it's on board. Mercy Dawn. Suddenly, a new alert pinged. A shuttle launched from the Mercy Dawn. Unauthorized. No life signs on board. Just a signal. A single repeating message. We remember. Kira's breath froze in her chest. Intercept it. Destroy it before it leaves the system. But the shuttle was fast. Its path curved around the fleet, dipping low through a gravitational slingshot and vanishing into hyperspace. Gone, eh? Ripple of silence passed through the fleet. Raven spoke. Unknown destination. Based on trajectory, its course is randomized. It could be headed anywhere. Kira turned away from the screen. Then it's already spreading. Back on the Pathfinder, Elias was connecting the final pieces. The black spiral, the ancient language, the fragments of translated text. He turned to the CUM panel. Admiral Thorne, you need to hear this. Go ahead. Ilias's voice trembled slightly. We were wrong. This wasn't a natural threat. This is a manufactured one. Engineered, ancient, beyond reason. I believe. It was built to consume civilizations. It doesn't destroy through war. It invades through memory. Kira's voice was sharp. Explain. The more you study it, the more you talk about it, the more it knows you. Every whisper, every story. That's how it spreads. It becomes your fear, your guilt, your pain. The people it kills aren't just dead.
Yeah.
Used, their minds become its mouths. Kira stared at the stars through the wide bridge window. So the signal wasn't a cry for help. It was the first infection, Elias confirmed. It used the Zarelians to call out. It wanted an answer, and we gave it one. For a long moment, no one said anything. Finally, Kira spoke. We can't go back to Earth. Not yet. Not with this thing loose, Raven agreed. Agreed. I have isolated all infected data nodes. Purging now. Crew with potential exposure must be contained. Kira turned to her bridge crew. Down all information about the entity. Scrub the archives. Classify this mission under blackout protocol. If this thing spreads through knowledge, then ignorance is our only shield. Captain Idris stepped forward. What if it's already too late? Kira looked at him. Then we hunt it down. We kill every whisper, every shadow, every echo, till we wipe it from existence. The Mercy Dawn still floated in orbit, silent, lifeless, and infected. Kira gave the order. Destroy it. A beam of white-hot plasma fired from the Vindicator. The Mercy Dawn was gone in an instant, consumed in light. But even as the ship vanished, a whisper remained in the cums. A voice not human. Not Zerelian. Something. In between, you opened the door. You saw us. Now we are inside. The sky was quiet, too quiet. The black storm was gun ripped apart by the full wrath of Earth's death fleet. The stars shimmered again over Zarelia's dead system. No signals, no voices. The monstrous thing that had worn faces, memories, and fear vanished. But silence after madness doesn't bring peace. It brings suspicion. Admiral Kira Thorne stood alone at the Vindicator's main viewport. Below her, what remained of the battlefield drifted in silence. Burned ships, dust clouds, cracked moons. It felt over, but her instincts screamed otherwise, across the fleet. Crew members whispered questions they didn't dare ask out loud. What if it's not gone? What if we only killed its shadow? What if it's already in us? In the medical bay, 2 surviving recon soldiers sat strapped to beds. Both had returned from the surface days ago, cleared by bioscons, but now they sat still. Too still, a nurse leaned in. "Private, can you hear me?" One of the soldiers opened his eyes, but they weren't his eyes. They were black. Endless, he smiled with a mouth that wasn't right. And then he whispered, "We said nothing, but you still remembered." Before the nurse could scream, his vitals spiked. His heart exploded in the hallway outside. The second soldier began humming an Earth's nursery rhyme. The infection was still here. Kira received the report within minutes. Her jaw clenched. "Burn them both. Seal the med bay. No survivors." "Captain?" Idris burst into the bridge. "Admiral, this is madness. Those people passed quarantine." She turned, face hard. "Which means the thing evolved again. We killed its body, not its mind, not its echo." Idris hesitated. Then, "What do we do?" Kira looked at him, her voice tired but sharp. "We finish what we started. We erase everything it touched." She initiated Operation Final Purge. All logs from Zorelia were deleted. All recordings. Battle footage, sensor scans, dash scrubbed. The recon ships that visited the surface, destroyed. The personnel who studied the vault, executed. Even Raven, the fleet's AI, was disconnected from the network, and its core memory wiped clean. A clean slate. Nothing left. Just silence. But the galaxy doesn't forget so easily. Back on Earth, the child had already begun drawing spiral shapes on the walls of her bedroom. Her father was a technician aboard the EFS Mercy Dawn. He'd sent a message home before the fleets. Communications were cut. Just one file. A video. 1 second long. Static. A shadow. A whisper. "We remember." That was all it took. The infection had a new seed. Across the fleet. Those final hours were quiet. Cold. The crews knew something had changed, but orders were orders. Files were burned. Evidence erased. The official report would state that a biological anomaly consumed Zorelia Prime. No mention of the Black Storm. No mention of the Whispering Echo. The truth would be buried. Again, Kira stood one last time before the stars. She whispered to herself, "If no one remembers it, maybe it'll die for real." Then she gave the final order. "Scatter the fleet. Lock this system. No traffic in or out. No signals. No rescue missions." She closed her eyes. Let this place be forgotten. And slowly, the Death Fleet faded into deep space, vanishing ship by ship into long, dark trails of light. No memorial. No monument. Just a dead system left to freeze in silence. But even in that silence, the whisper remained, drifting in signals, hiding in thoughts, waiting, because memory is not just a record of the past. It's a doorway, and someone will open it again